Welcome to our clearly rehearsed presentation.
Alright, so first off, our app is called QRL8, and I say app, technically it's a web app that we're working on, but it's really a platform for people who are filmmakers, video makers, or all the way from the lowest budgets to the highest budgets, to possibly organize their footage and streamline the process of going from shooting on set to getting it ready to edit.
Okay, so what we were thinking about, or at least I was thinking about when creating this idea, was my worst task was getting home from set or from whatever media production that I was on and having to deal with all this footage. It was all named like 00.123 or whatever, and I didn't want to deal with it anymore. I was tired of renaming stuff, I was tired of putting it into files. So I wanted to create a way of organizing and managing it all, so instead of writing it on a piece of paper and then renaming it by hand or making a spreadsheet or something, some universal task, universal system that would rename it all. Awesome. So the way that we thought of doing it is using the power of computers. Yay, 21st century. Basically, like I said, I said this before, but we wanted to have our system be able to work on, have one system so that way everyone is referencing the same data, everyone is not touching the same data, but they're still all, again, referencing the same data. It's the idea that there's no human error where people are writing things down. It's all automated through the computer, which will help speed up the process in post-production.
All right.
Now, a brief demonstration.
Jeremy, you ready?
Ready for this? So we're going to demonstrate this. We've had some slight issues before, but it should work.
So, if Karen, want to pull up your phone.
So this is, for anyone who's not familiar with the slate, this is kind of the basic format of a general slate that we've kind of copied, obviously, for sake of people understanding it. You have like the production name, the name of the company, the director, you have the camera you're shooting on. Here you have like a card, your scene number, shot number, and take number.
And so this is exactly when you would open up our web application. This is what would immediately what you see once it decides to get itself together. There it is. All right, awesome.
So when you go to start, you'd slate it just like you normally would, but the difference is when you call the slate,
it shows a QR code. And so that QR code is housing a reference number. And so basically all the data is stored locally on that device. So while I'm talking, if Jeremy wants to fill in some notes for we had some bad focus, the circle take. We're going to write a little bit of video notes and audio notes. The idea then is that it's stored in what's called CSV.
all right, but not too bad.
All right. So it stores in what's called the CSV file, which is...
This is a comma-separated file.
There you go.
We'll get into the technical stuff.
We'll get into the technical stuff, but basically that file is
in the
then...
second half of a very well-rehearsed
will be outputted at the end, and then that's how the desktop application at the end will be able to organize all the files. Do you want to do another?
Yeah. So
another take?
You can just show that you can continue. So if I were to hit cut, it'll automatically increment the take so that we know that we're going on to the next take. If, for example, we were saying, all right, well, this is a different scene, scene 11. I hit done, take goes back to 1 for us. So it automates some of those processes as well. Once again, I hit the top to launch our QR code and tag it as a piece of footage. And if, for example, the camera wasn't running, I can run second sticks, and we'll get a second take of the same exact QR code. That way we can tag it to the same piece of file.
And I know that QR code comes up really fast, but it's actually considered industry standard for what we did it off of is on a slate. There's sometimes a thing called time code. The idea of time code is that it's a universal measurement that when all the cameras are looking at it at the same time, you can look at that number and know that that is the starting point for all of your footage. And so for time code, when it's hit, it's I think it's
about 1 second.
About 1 second, which is what we were displaying it as. And so we thought it would be appropriate to kind of keep it at industry standard, quote unquote.
So once you've finished your shoot and you've gone through everything, you'll hit the finish shoot button, and you get the whole list of all the content of all the different shots that you've taken. Obviously, we've been shooting all day, so we've got a whole bunch of stuff already in there. You'll see the last couple entries are the ones that we just did. I would then go to the share card for this, and I can email this to Aaron. Great.
So once that's done, so let's say Jeremy's on set. Let's say I'm the editor. So over here, here's the data file that Jeremy, definitely the same file that Jeremy just showed on the screen, is now on my computer. And so this is the footage from our movie here. It's called Jeremy's Departure. It's various shots of Jeremy walking off screen. It's really, I think it's going to be a summer blockbuster. It's really, so it's just sweet. So anyway, so we have the data files there, the footage is here, and then there's this empty. I just made an empty output folder here, but I want you to keep an eye on what happens with this output folder as we go along. Let me make some space here. So this is the desktop part of our application here. So all I'm going to do is select the source folder. So this is where, by the way, the reason it looks jittery is the thing. It's not our program. So I'm just going to select the footage folder here. I'm going to select the data file here. And then I'm just going to select where I want it to output all of the sorted, organized footage to. So I'm going to pick this output folder, which is this over here. So I want you to keep an eye on this space here. Keep an eye on this output folder as this processes. So you'll see it'll actually go through and look for the QR codes. And once it finds it, it actually starts organizing and copying everything automatically.
That's the nicest thing I've ever seen.
So, and you can see we shot things on 2 different dates here, so it's actually organizing everything by date as well. There's another shot that just showed up. So this is all just based on the information that Jeremy put into the slate, and it's being everything's being replicated and renamed. There it goes. Yeah. So we'll just let this finish here. Here we go. Clearly that part was my idea. So, yep, here's all our footage here. And
All copies of the same files that were from the original source folder.
Yep.
So you don't lose any of the data that you had originally. And
so there we go. So once I start editing, we can just bring all this into Premiere or whatever as bins, and everything's already sort of organized, and we just saved a bunch of things.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So now we're going to the science.
Wow.
There it is.
So this is,
All right, so this was just for anyone who's not familiar with how it works when you're shooting a movie. Currently, like the current system is, while Dan said obviously they sometimes use time code, and so it's somewhat digital. It really is a process that involves a lot of different people trying to relay information to the next person so that they don't have to like rediscover what happened on set.
not to mention, timecode is really expensive, and it's really hard to do if you were like starting out or trying to do this as an indie production.
Yeah, if you wanted to buy like a timecode system, you're looking at upwards of like $2,500 just for like entry level. So basically, like what would you have is you have Anna on set, and she'd be clapping the slate at the start of at the start of each shot, to sync the audio, but also to get the information on the thing to the camera, the same stuff that we were presenting. And obviously then that information would then be recorded, usually manually. It could be digitally on an iPad nowadays, but it'd be recorded manually by person onto some form of document. Everything about shot, take, etc., and notes about each one. Then that would be handed off eventually to the data wrangler, Dimitri, what we're calling him, and he would then try to combine those two, which I know from friends who have done that both for here in park productions areas and also on the West Coast in LA and Hollywood sets. It's a long and arduous process. I mean, granted, they get to make decent money doing basically nothing, except for sitting there doing a lot of stuff actually. But yeah, it's a process that obviously if you could streamline that, it would not only save money but also a lot of time and yeah.
So I mean, we went over this before. There's 2 main parts: the slate, which you guys saw, desktop, which Aaron was doing. So now this is the new system is how this would work. Basically, Anna would be using the slate in the beginning. She'd be standing in front of the camera. She'd press the button. have all the information already put in. Then she would hand off that device to the script supervisor while the action is going on. Sally would be writing down all the notes, whatever is happening. At the end of that take, she would ask the director and the camera operator and all the people so that she could get any other additional notes that she was unaware of while doing it. And then that would all be integrated into the CSV file, so that way when Dimitri gets it, it's all already organized, it's already ensured that whatever they're talking about is the right file, the right frame, everything is the same.
So the Slate app process, basically, it can be opened on any browser since it's a web interface. It takes in information from the user, and they can organize it however they want. The Slate has two different sections to it. You can click the top clap bar to actually continue moving on, generate the QR code, and go on into the script supervising section of the application. And obviously, when you're done, it'll generate that CSV file.
So the technologies we use for this it's just a web app, so we use HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and then CSV is just a standard table format for data.
And you can open that in almost any kind of database or table system, Excel, numbers, whatever it may be.
Chrome prior to version 62. So this is what the output looks like. You already saw that a little bit, yeah. Saw the desktop app. So this uses, this is written in C++. So it uses a computer vision library called OpenCV, along with some other libraries like ZBar, which reads QR codes predictably, and a couple other things to manage the data. And then it also loads in, as you saw, the CSV file, matches the code and the number in the QR code with the row in the CSV file, and then does the whole folder creation, renaming business.
Yeah.
Wow. So, thanks to...